want to talk to you guys about the American dream. So there was this new article that came out that says Gen Z and millennials are way more skeptical of the American dream than any previous generation. First thing I want to ask, does that surprise anybody here? No, because
kids aren't taught why America is special.
No, they're not anymore.
America is a special country. It is unique in the world. It is a special place, and it is better than every other country on earth. And I say this without any hesitation. This is an absolute fact.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you're right. There is no push for that anymore. The idea of American exceptionalism is essentially gone. Yep. This would have been pushed. This would have been pushed back in the day by Hollywood or the music industry. That you were born to a special place. You are blessed to have been born here.
Yes.
And that is no longer. They now want you to believe that to be born. Did you see that video the other day of the woman who said that she was trafficked to America because she was adopted at the age of 2 from another country? Did you see that?
No, I didn't hear about that. But
this woman says she was adopted here in America, like at the age of 2 from another country. And she said she was trafficked to America, and then repeats, "I'm not American. I am not American. I am not American."
I remember that.
That is what they want you to feel now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there has been dodgy stuff going on with adoptions. Like, there were a huge number of Chinese adoptions for a while, and a lot of that, like, you had to go to China with a bunch of cash in order to adopt your child. Yeah. Like, there has been definitely dodgy stuff, but you know, that aside, the United States is a great country, and we haven't been teaching that the U.S. is a great country in
not
at least
not just a great
couple
country,
generations.
Yep.
We haven't been teaching
best.
that in a couple generations.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was in high school and it started being like, America is bad, and I was like, really? I don't think that's right.
Even in 2010,
and that was in the 90s.
Even in 2010, like the first time I went
90s.
I went overseas, and I kind of got that first indication of, like, everyone from another country just assumed I would be fat because I was American, and I would hear from Americans how they were embarrassed to be from here, and I would it never made any sense to me to have been. And remember, these are kids that grew up in the same socioeconomic status that I was, which was middle class, and I'm like, what on earth do you have to complain about?
Almost the whole world agrees with me. They
Except
don't
for
admit
Americans,
it.
Yeah.
What? Pardon me?
Except for Americans.
Well, yeah, but they won't admit it, but they do, and you can tell by how many people are trying to get to the United States. If the United States was not absolutely superior, then people would not be doing everything they possibly could to get to the United States.
I think a lot of it comes back to a sense of optimism. I watch a lot of old movies and television, and a lot of it was even people who were not the most successful had a sense of optimism towards achieving what would be considered the American dream, meaning the wife, the kids, the two, the white picket fence. All of these things were something that were seen as something to aspire to, but we've spent such a long time in this country tearing down all of the facets that make that a reality, right? We've kind of criminalized the idea of the traditional family.
I mean, Black Lives Matter did that.
Yeah. And the idea of ambition is now criminalized in a lot of ways because it's white supremacist. It's also hyper-capitalist, which is a problem. And I see that in the study. I think it said 53% of Americans still believe in the American dream. That actually seemed honestly higher than what I imagined the number would be, but that's still sad to think that 53% of the people born to this country don't have faith that they can make something happen. I also look at the word dream and wonder if people just thought it was, the American default outcome. And that's not what it was. You still had to work hard to get what you wanted to. But I did also see another survey that said that the number one issue coming up in this election will be price of living.
Sure.
Cost of living is so high right now, right?
Quality of life is a huge deal, and that comes along with cost of living.
So they said 64% of upper income people believe in it, 39% of lower income believe in it. I actually think it's more important for people in the lower income bracket to believe in it because that speaks to ambition to get ahead and find more for yourself. And it doesn't have to come down to wealth. It can be as simple as getting married, having kids, and building a fulfilling life with another person and starting a family. It doesn't necessarily, it seems like it always comes back to, this could just be my observation here. I feel like millennials in particular and Gen Z, they draw it back to home ownership. That's the big complaint, is that they're never going to own a home. Right. So a big part of that is like, if people
and dating is an ish show.
Yeah. But if people are priced out of the housing market, if they're never going to be able to own a home of their own, they have a very hard time believing that anything else beyond that is even possible.
Well, also there's so much that is, I mean, speaking to the American dream, the concept of owning a home, there's a lot stacked against people owning homes other than just economic factors.
And the middle class is shrinking dramatically.
There's that, but you also have huge mega corporations buying up all the land and housing and then renting it back to you.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get into a housing market when you have mega corporations that can just buy the thing out from under you. I bought a home a couple of years ago, and I definitely had to leave my home. I had to leave like where I grew up and the region that I was in order to buy that home. I couldn't afford anything where my cousins live or where my family lives, you know, or where I grew up or in New York or anything. I couldn't afford anything. So I think that also people have to be willing to look outside of their comfort zones and look outside of what their expectations are for what their lives are going to be like.
Yeah, like I think
that's okay.
I always equate it back to the idea of perspective, because to me, the big thing has always been gratitude. Now I'm somebody that's been through a lot of ups and downs, addiction issues. My life hit rock bottom at one point. So to me, I thought I'd be dead by this age. So anything past that is gravy. Right? Like I'm happy with everything that I've been able to achieve since, and I don't feel any sort of sense of entitlement because I've had to work my way back and try to earn everything that I've had since then. So the idea that I don't own a home doesn't bother me in the same way. Now, granted, not everybody has made those mistakes, and a lot of people feel they've done everything right. They went to college, they did everything they were supposed to, and they've been priced out of an economy that's no longer supporting them. But there is a modern victim complex that kills the ability to feel gratitude for what you do have. And I do feel that gratitude for what you have and where you live, like Phil was saying earlier, should play a huge role in what you consider the American dream.
Yeah, I think that's true too. Or like when you wake up and you really don't want to work and you're very grouchy, and then you realize like, oh wait, I have a job and I can support myself. That's actually kind of great.
I was just telling Mary on Monday, like when we were coming back for the show on Monday, so we'd been off for the holidays, right? We had 2 days off the week before, so we had like a long weekend, and I had this generic sense of minor dread coming back to work, and I had to remind
case of the Mondays.
And I had to remind myself that I love my job.
Right.
Like I don't actually dislike going to work, but I'm kind of programmed from years of working a regular job to be kind of bummed about having to go back to work. That's gratitude, is reminding myself I get to go back to work.
Yeah, I was so grouchy yesterday, and I woke up this morning and I was like, that was dumb that you were so grouchy yesterday. You had no reason to be, you know.
How do we reinstill?
Right. I'm just thinking like, how have we gotten to this point where it is so hard for people to be grateful for what they have?
Because life is so easy.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean,
Too easy.
if doing the very, very simple basic things you need to survive took all day long, you wouldn't feel this entitlement to time off. The idea that, I mean, until the Industrial Revolution, which we're talking about, 500,000 years of human history where human beings were basically human, maybe 300,000 or whatever. Up until 150 years ago, life was short, brutal, and hard. The weather would kill you. People would die of exposure all the time. You would die from not getting enough
More
food.
people die of cold now too than heat.
So it was absolutely, like, it was a literal struggle to survive. So this idea that we should have leisure time is entirely new.
And there's
it's
a sense of entitlement
innovation.
when people talk about like, you shouldn't have to worry about where your food comes from or where you're going to sleep at night. I'm like,
BS.
the world doesn't owe you shit.
Exactly.
Like nobody owes you anything. And I think the moment that you start appreciating that and understanding that you are owed nothing in the world, it actually makes it easier to deal with the hardship.
When you expect things to be difficult, then you're not surprised and you're not upset when they're difficult, which is one of the things that the Stoics that we used to say all the time. Like, be thankful for the things that you do have and don't want more than you need, you know?
Right.
And if you can look at your life and say, wow, I do have time off and I get to do, you know, maybe it's, I like my job, right? Or, you know, never mind just like, do I love my job? Like, I know I'm extremely fortunate. Like, I am one of the most fortunate human beings that have ever existed in all of human history, like literally. And like, so to think that there are people that are just like, oh, I'm not happy about the job that I have. You have a job. You have a roof over your head. You can easily get food. You don't have to make your clothes, right? You don't have to
Wash them by hand.
Exactly. You don't have to.
That sucks with like the washboard.
It's hard. Like,
It's hard.
You don't have to, you know, you don't have to convince the horse that it's time to get out and help you like till the fields, or the bull or whatever. You know, it's like these are things that were the norm for most of human history. The fact that we have the ability now to do things like throw your clothes in the washing machine, you know, have a dryer that can dry them. The labor-saving devices that the Industrial Revolution came up with, or that came with the Industrial Revolution, they also came with this sense of entitlement
Vacuums,
that is
you don't have to beat your rugs
that is
anymore.
ruined, absolutely ruined like human beings' ability to be grateful.
But along with that is so you have that on one side, and then you have the intentional destruction from inside the nation of the nation and
Sure,
our
yeah.
value system itself.
We have a couple $20
Oh,
ones.
go ahead
Couple.
for both of
I
them.
think I may have to scroll back up, but Rhaegar Targaryen says, Phil is correct. When I was underway in the aughts, OIF/OEF, whether we hit the port in Australia, Singapore, Japan, Bahrain, Hong Kong, Thailand, even Victoria, everyone spoke of America with awe and reverence.
It's Operation
Yep.
Enduring Freedom, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
OIF is Operation Iraqi Freedom, and but yeah, it, like, you know, people like America is the best country ever. It's the best place you could possibly live. That's part of the reason why I'm sure that I'm one of the most fortunate human beings in all of history. Like, I get to be in a band and talk about, you know, pop culture and politics, and people listen, and that's what I do for work. Like, the odds of that are just astronomical.
My dad is one of 8 from Iran, and he made it here and then brought 2 of his brothers over. And the fact that I was so close to growing up in the Islamic Republic of Iran is something that I have had gratitude for my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, even like on my worst days, I know I have it better than 99% of the world out there, and people have completely lost that. And I think social media actually has influenced that, because we tend to be grass is
110%.
greener type people.
That's what I'm talking
we see
about
people's
when I-
icebergs and think, how come he got that and I don't have that? It's like, well, you didn't see all the work that went into that. You just see the polished end product that, you know, people post on the internet.
When I talk about deleting Twitter, that's exactly the reason why, right? It's because I end up, you know, ruining it for myself by reading a bunch of threads from people who have very pointed complaints about things that just end up making me mad, because I don't understand why they don't get the same type of gratitude that I do. But that doesn't, first of all, it doesn't benefit me to argue with them, because all that's doing is destroying my peace, and it doesn't help in any way, shape, or form. So I would like to know, like, how do you reinstill those values in the next generation, especially when social media does reward the complaining over the rest of it? How do we instill those values in the next generation?
Well, it's definitely something that parents need to do.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's something that fathers need to do. I think that a major part of the problems that we see in the United States are, first of all, the fact that fathers are not the norm, or that there are so many children raised without fathers. And on top of that, the way that society treats men, I think, is awful. And I think that if we could fix those two things, and I think that starts with men themselves, not with like complaining about, you know, things outwardly. Focus on yourself first. And if men do that, then that'll go a long way to making the conditions
I think
better for men.
Men struggle with that, though, a lot. Like, isn't there a stigma of like a man being in touch with not necessarily his feelings, but his own thoughts, and kind of being more self-aware? It's almost like
I think that
there's kind of a barrier.
Dissipated.
I
hope so. Like, I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's good. I'm just
No,
saying
I
that
think
might be
that-
a deterrent.
I think
Some of it
that
has
there is
dissipated.
some truth to it, especially when you talk about, I think most people will think of it like being in touch with their own feelings, but more so than being in touch with their own feelings, just being confident that being a man is okay. Like, the idea The way that society treats men nowadays is, especially from women, that you hear, at least on the internet, because they it gets shock value, but this is what's piped into young men's ears, is if you're a man, you're inherently bad. Masculinity at all is toxic. Any form of masculinity is toxic. Anytime a woman is sad or upset or whatever, it's your fault. It's a man's fault, and you're bad for it. So a woman sad, man bad is the little phrase they use. The idea that men should have a strong sense of themselves is shunned. The idea, one of the things that came along with feminism was this implication that is wrong, that if as women and the things that women are capable of doing became more, that had to be a corresponding shrinking of men, and that's not true at all.
Yeah, that was.
I'm
I'm from the generation right where that was the most proliferated, and it wasn't even necessarily just that. It was like they told women that you can do whatever you want, you can be anything, but they didn't really tell men how they're supposed to react. There was no attention paid to what that meant for men, as if pretending that completely raising someone else is going to tear down another. That wasn't necessarily the implication, but there was no thought paid to what it meant, given that our gender dynamics are supposed to be complementary.
Structure
Our gender dynamics are supposed to be complementary, and we have now changed that dynamic and expected nothing to change otherwise.
When women are told that they don't need a man, which is absolutely a lie, like the idea that women don't need men, that is a farce, because in the middle of the winter, when the power goes out, you're not going to call Jennifer to go climb the pole to fix the electrical thing. It's going to be Joe, Bob, and Tyrone. They're going to be out there freezing their balls off, making sure that this gets fixed for all of their families.
With zero gratitude.
Not even
zero gratitude. And the thing is that you're right, zero gratitude, but not only zero gratitude, you're a piece of crap for it. Right? You have to go out there and fix it and bust your ass, and you might die doing it, and you're a piece of shit.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.